As the number of large sporting events, concerts, and festivals grows across Las Vegas, so does a chance to make money from fans with an appetite. Street vendors selling food outside on the sidewalk, places like Allegiant Stadium or the Strip. But the Southern Nevada Health District has a warning about buying from unpermitted vendors. Kim Passoff joining us live now with the story.
Yes, you may be surprised to learn that warning is not just about the safety of the food. The health district is also concerned about the safety of the people who are selling it. Hot dogs sold after a recent Raiders game to hungry fans. Instead of paying a premium for a burger inside of the stadium, we've seen hot dog carts popping up outside of games, charging a fraction of the price for food. But the Southern Nevada Health District warns they may not be permitted, and they can't verify the safety of their food. SNHD telling Fox 5 hot dog vendors are required to follow the same requirements that a restaurant would. That includes obtaining a health permit, following general hand washing and sanitation procedures, keeping food at proper temperatures, using approved equipment, and ensuring food is from an approved source. SNHD warning eating food from unpermitted vendors can make you and your family sick. And by purchasing food from unpermitted vendors, you may be enabling human trafficking and slavery. SNHD says during a routine investigation into unpermitted vendors, the health district and law enforcement uncovered street vendors sold into slavery by handlers or coyotes who illegally bring them into the United States. The victims as old as 88 and as young as 13.
Our main mission is to stand up for immigrant families, low-income families.
Jose Rivera with Make the Road Nevada, a nonprofit organization based in Las Vegas, says they want to see education for unpermitted street vendors rather than enforcement.
Local authorities, such as LVMPD, Southern Nevada Health District, they do show up and they start confiscating stuff from these vendors. We understand the importance of having licenses while selling products, but regardless of licensed or non-licensed, they're human beings and they have the right to try to make ends meet and bring funds to their house.
According to SNHD, unpermitted vendors include any person selling any type of food without a health permit and business license. This can occur from a residence, a vehicle, a shopping cart, a table in a park, or on a street corner. With the exception of swap meets and farmers markets, street vendors are illegal everywhere in Clark County. And Clark County tells us there have also been those food carts popping up along the Strip. They say it is illegal to operate such a business there, and there have been enforcement efforts. Reporting live tonight, Kim Passoff, Fox 5 News, local, Las Vegas.
We also reached out to Metro Police to ask about enforcement. They say it's a matter for Clark County business licensing.